Welcome to Obsidian for tabletop RPGs. Let's learn how to use the tool. Alright, g'day guys and welcome back today to another Obsidian video. Today we're going to be having a look at Dataview and Obsidian Publish and how to get them working together. For those of us who've used Obsidian Publish for a while, you would be aware that Obsidian Publish does not support plugins, alright? And that can be problematic because Dataview is amazing, lots of us use it, but when obviously you try and publish your notes, they don't look the way you expect them to. Now, this is specifically what I'm talking about. This is a Dataview query. Alright, so I haven't actually created this template here, or the table. What I've done is I've got a Dataview query that says, create me a table with these columns from this folder where these properties are player or active. Alright, it gives me a nice list of all my player notes. Gives me some metadata from those player notes so that I can see, some basic stats about these people. And then from there, that's a really useful piece of functionality because if I add a new player, alright, my table updates automatically. If I change a player so that the status is not active, then they will remove from this table automatically. And that is really cool. Now, the problem with that is when you try and publish, what happens? Well, this is what happens. You get some bumbled text that says, oh, there's the query, but that doesn't mean anything to me as a viewer of this website because I don't need to know the query. I wanted to see the information. So, what are we going to do today? We're going to go through how to actually set this up so that you will actually see the table in your Obsidian Publish site when you press publish. And it's pretty cool. Let's jump in. Alright, so first things first, we need to acknowledge where this came from. Definitely not my idea. Over here on Joshua.io, Joshua, not me, has created a template and tutorial on how to do this. Alright, if you're not familiar with Joshua, you can see he's got a blog here. There's a lovely little picture of him hidden there, and he's got some content here around like how he uses things with his noting and his stuff. And this obviously isn't TTRPG related. I can see here he's got some pretty advanced topics, which is always useful because that's where we learn. Alright, so hats off to Joshua for figuring this out. He's got a tutorial here. There'll be a link to this tutorial in the description below. I highly recommend you go through and you have a read of it. Alright, but what I'm going to do next is I'm going to walk you through how I use this tutorial to create Dataview notes for myself in my own published site. So let's jump in and have a look. Alright, so first things first. What are the plugins that you're going to need to pull this off? Well, obviously Dataview. Come down to settings, community plugins, and hit browse. You probably have this installed already. If you're looking for a way to publish Dataview, you're probably already using Dataview, right? But Dataview here by Michael Brennan, this is a very popular plugin. Do the install, do the enable. We're also, though, going to need Templater. Oh, my typing is just on point today. Templater, alright, by Zahalant Void. Alright, go ahead, do the install, do the enable. While you're here, check the hotkeys. Alright, you can see that I've got Open Insert Template Model is Alt-E. That's very important. Alright, that's going to be required to actually trigger your publish. But if we also come down here to Templater, you'll see a template folder location. This is also important. This is where the template is going to go that we're going to create today. Alright, so make sure you understand these things because they might be different for your vault. Alright, so we've got both of those things installed. We basically want to go through and get this Dataview table working for us into Obsidian Publish. Alright, I just want to show you some examples though of where I've already got this working. So if we come back to Obsidian TTRPG tutorials on the front page, you can see here on the right, there's the recently added and the recently edited lists now. These are Dataview queries. Now let's just speak about how these are working. These are not actually on this page. Alright, so you can see this section here is what's bringing these in. Alright, I'm using the ITS theme to create an info box, which is that box on the right hand side, like a wiki style table. And you can see here though, I've just got links to these notes. Alright, that's why they're wrapped in sort of this visual UI here with a link to this note, because what they actually are is their own individual notes where the Dataview queries are updated. Alright, now inside of these notes are not actually Dataview queries. You can actually see that they're markdown notes, alright, or markdown tables. Alright, because what we're going to do is we're going to set up a template that when triggered creates the Dataview table in this note and then converts it to Markdown, all right, in one process, so that, you know, it's actually not a live Dataview query anymore. What it actually is a copy of the results of the Dataview that's written to Markdown, that's then published to a file, all right, and that file gets overridden and replaced every time you run this query. And that's why this is on its own separate note instead of being in here written inside this actual content, because I need to code in what's going to happen in that note, and I don't want to code in all of the changes I'm making to my note. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling in that changed file every time with a link. All right, now the exclamation mark at the start is the bit that says render this note inside of this note. So display me the properties of this note right here. If I didn't have the exclamation mark, you would just get a link. Okay, so I'll put the exclamation mark back in because that's the visual effect I'm looking for. And then obviously when I go to Obsidian Publish, what it's doing is it's publishing these files, right? So that it's linking through and it's got that link. That's effectively what we are doing. All right, so we're going to need to obviously set up an Obsidian, a template in order to make this happen. So let's jump in and let's do that. All right. So by this point here, what you should have done is come in here to the joshuas.io website and have a read of this. All right, make sure you do that first and get a good, strong understanding of how this works, and read through the examples he's provided, because it's a really good tutorial and teach you how to obviously work these things out. For me though, what I've done is I've come over to my templates folder, and you can see I've got an update publish files template. All right, now this is a pretty complex piece of code. I'm not going to pretend to understand all of it, but my understanding is that there's a API in the Dataview that allows them to basically query the results from Dataview, and then you can actually map that into Markdown. And that's effectively what this is doing, is it's mapping it into Markdown. Now, I've got a number of different queries in here, so let's just break this down. Ignore all this bit here, all right? That's not something you're going to need. Ignore all this here, that's just part of the code. The bit that matters is actually this section here in green. Alright, you can see the square bracket, square bracket. Each section of that is actually a Dataview query. Alright, and if we take a copy of that and we bring it over here to our notepad, and we'll paste this in, let's have a look at this code. Recently edited is the name of the note. Alright, whatever is in here, it's going to update this note with this query. So you change your name here. Now, it can be a new file or an existing file. If it's an existing file, it's going to override that file. So just be careful with this. I'd use a new name. Alright, but then here, if we take this section here, well, and we paste that down to here, some of you may already recognize this. And let's just add these in so that you really do recognize it. Alright, that's a Dataview query from your notes. Effectively, you can see the table without ID, rename it that to note, and then come in here and put the modified column. And then we've got a from statement, a where statement, and a sort statement. Alright, so that is just a Dataview query. So if you have an existing Dataview query, you can obviously copy that into this process. Now, also a reminder that there is the excellent basic Dataview query builder available. Alright, that is a tool that you can use to create these Dataview queries with a step-by-step process that has a basic wizard for creating these. If you don't know where that is, head on over to obsidian.ttrpgtutorials.com. Come here to plugin tutorials, come down to the section on Dataview. Alright, Dataview and other advanced, and you can see here that I've got links to the Dataview query builder. There's also some Dataview examples. This is a really sort of useful page, and I'm adding more things to this as I go with new sort of Dataview queries that I use inside of my nodes. So, you know, list recently modified locations. It's got instructions here on how to create this for yourself and a bit of an explanation on how it works. So just a heads up that exists. It might make your life a little bit easier for this situation. Alright, and what we're going to do, effectively, once we have a Dataview query, obviously, I would paste that inside of your note, alright, and make sure that that is working. So if we come along here, we're going to go plugin tutorials, files, Dataview, and it's down here, Obsidian Publish. Alright, you can see I've actually already got this here, but if I pasted that in, alright, we can see that that is functional. Right, so I'm testing it inside of a live node to make sure my Dataview query works, and then I would copy that, alright, and we're going to go back and we're going to put that into our template. Alright, so where did the template go? Update publish files. Alright, as I said, there's a green section here. And what we're ultimately looking to do is I'm going to actually add a, I'm going to add this. Alright, I already did it once, but we're going to add that in. So my file starts like this, and what I've got is I've got two sections of this green code. So what it's actually doing is it's creating two files, one called recently edited and one called recent new files. And if we come in here and expand this out, you can see recently edited and recent new files. So they already exist. What this is doing is basically replacing those files with the content from here and then converting that into Markdown. If we step down here, there's also this section here that's adding a comment to these files. So if I come in here and actually go into edit mode, you can see it's adding that comment there. So it is possible to write other content to this note with this template as well. And then there's some error handling and stuff like that. But effectively what you need to understand is this section here is what you're looking for. Okay, so if I wanted to, let's say, create a table, and then we've got this Dataview query here that's got my players table in there. Alright, we're going to copy this into that query. Now I'm just going to delete this player list just so you can see what this looks like from your perspective. I'm going to copy this here, which is the working Dataview query. We're going to come back here to our section, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to inject some new code in this section here. Now, we've got to follow the syntax of it. So it starts with a square bracket. I'm going to press enter. Alright, then we come down here and we've got on the new line, we've got the name. And I'm just going to check 1, 2, 3 spaces. Alright, and I'm going to call it player list. Alright, then obviously we have a little comma. Alright, so that's the name of the file. Then we come down here and we're going to put a little dash by the looks of it, and we're going to paste our query in. Now you can see there's no break lines on this one, so I'm actually just going to remove the break lines and put it all on the same line just so it matches the same format. And you can see at the end we need that closing little quotation mark there with a comma. Alright, exactly the same, and then down here we need another little one at the end of that. So now see, I've replicated the formatting of that text exactly. I've just put my Dataview query in here. Alright, I've named that file in there. Okay, that's basically it. That's all I need. I did modify the existing template that was used by Joshua.io just to meet my own requirements. He had some extra sort of text in here that I didn't really have a need for. I just needed a very raw table because I wanted to suck that into other tables. So this has worked out really nicely for me, and we're now good. Alright, and now this is where the trick occurs. Let's say I want to publish my website. I'm ready to publish. I don't come up here to publish changes anymore. Okay, that button is effectively useless to me right now. If I want to update my Dataview queries when I publish, I have to do it through the template. Alright, so we're going to come in here. I'm just going to get rid of that because I don't need it right now. What we do from here is we now come in and we trigger our templater. Remember at the start of the video we showed you how to set your hotkeys for templater. That's important here. So mine is Alt-E. I'll press Alt-E and I type in publish, which is the name of my publish template. So update publish files. It's triggered things over here on the right. See, it's updated, and right, and it's created some new files. It's publishing those changes. Now I'm actually going to cancel here. Alright, I don't need to publish because it's actually already completed all of the changes that effectively is the magic that makes this work. So let's just go and have a look at it. Alright, we can see we've got a player list now. Now when I first ran this, it actually put it in the same folder as my templates. Alright, it put it in here, and then I actually dragged it up into my playlist. Now the reason why I needed to do that is I have my Obsidian Publish site, so it can't actually see my templates folder, so I couldn't see my playlist note. But just so that you know, once it creates it, it seems to start wherever your template runs, and then it can be placed somewhere else, and then from that point it recreates it in that spot. So here it's recreated it. I've got a playlist note now, and if we go into edit mode, we can see we have a markdown table. Now this is important, right? It's not a Dataview table, it's a markdown table, and it's effectively put that in here. Looks like it actually works with the escaping on its own, which is clever. That's a really good outcome. But yeah, that's what it is. It's now created a new note, and it's now ready to be published. All right, so let's just try that again. If we go Alt-E, go Publish, Update Publish Files, updated 3 of my notes, boom, boom, boom. Now the published changes go through. Alright, it's picked up that recently edited has changed because I've just edited this file. Alright, we click publish. We click back actually because I think I've got a new file here that I need to publish and I just forgot to click that. Wait for the little things to do it. If we go new, Obsidian TTRPG tutorials, yep, we've got a new playlist, so I'll click that. Click add linked. I usually do that before I publish just to check everything is connected. There we go, we've now published it. We click that, we open up the website. Where do we expect to see it? Well, here under playlist, you can see we've now published that, and we can see that is now a table. Alright, the linking is working. You can see that I've got other Dataview queries that are not working in my subnotes. That's because I would need to add, for every Dataview query that exists, I would need to add this into a new file and a new tab now. Let's just speak to that quickly. Like I use a lot of equals this dot file name equals this dot property, right? I don't think that's going to work very well in this situation. All right, that sort of Dataview probably not going to work as well because you've noticed that I'm creating a new file, and then what I need to do is actually link that file into the note where I want to display it. All right, let's show you how that works. So we're done, we've published, we have a playlist. Where do I want to put that? Well, I want to have that note in here, all right, on this page, and I want to publish that page. I haven't published the changes directly into this page because the code rewrites this note, right? And what that effectively means is that I would have to code in all of the changes on this page into that template in order to make this work, which is not ideal. So I create a new note that's just a raw note that has my Dataview table. I do it an exclamation mark, square bracket, and type in the name of my note, party list. Why is it not? Oh, player list, not party list. Alright, so now we have player list there. If we render that in, you can see we're now getting that table in our note. Alright, you can see the difference between a native Dataview table in one versus one that's actually embedded in another note. So there is a visual difference, but I don't need this anymore. I now have my player list, and then what I can do is I can Alt-E, I can publish, and we can update the published files. Wait for that to do its thing. Alright, we've got some changed files, so we publish that. We can click the link. And if we come down here to Plugin Tutorials, Dataview, and it's down the bottom, you can see that there's my table. Alright, so that's working out nicely. You can see obviously it is a link, so it does link to that note. It's still functioning in the same way, and there is a black box around it. But you've just got to understand, right? If we weren't to do that, if we were to try and code, sorry, wrong note. If we were trying to code the table into an existing note, that's where you've got to sort of like come in here and do a larger chunk of updates, is my understanding. I haven't played around with that too much, but this concept of having a separate note just means it's easy to rewrite that file and not worry about doing any damage to your notes. Alright, so there you go. As you can see, like, I've found a good way to use this with the recently added and the recently edited. So now people can come into my website and they can say, hey, what's the new template tutorials or whatever that Josh has made? Here they are. Alright, you can see the new ones down here. Alright, and you can also see the ones that I've updated and edited. So like this morning I updated the Pathfinder and the 5th edition ones with the new Foundry export process, for example. You can now see that I've edited that nicely because of the Dataview query, and I think that's an absolute fantastic outcome for us. So it's pretty simple. Once you sort of break it down, once you have a look at what it looks like, sorry, there's the tab that I'm looking for. It's just literally create one of these for every new Dataview query that you want to have in your published site. Publish it as a separate note and then draw that into that file using the exclamation mark link concept. Right, so it works out quite nicely. That's basically it. Huge hats off to Joshua.io for figuring this out, because this has been a long-term sort of issue for us in obviously using Publish. Everyone uses Dataview, everyone wanted to have these things on their site, and it's just fantastic functionality. I really don't understand Obsidian.md why you haven't added this natively into this application at this point. Like, we're all using it, just this one needs to happen. It needs to be part of the core tool so you can actually support this sort of stuff natively. It'll make life a lot easier for everyone. But yeah, there you go. Hopefully that's been useful to you. That's been how to use Dataview on an Obsidian Publish website. I will have links obviously to the tutorial first, the original tutorial. Plus I'll have links in the website to like my own queries so that you can come in here and see what changes I've made and how I'm using it. And then yeah, outside of that, I hope this has been useful for you. A huge massive shout out to all of my Patreons. I want to say a massive thank you for supporting me. It means a hell of a lot that you're supporting me every month. It's fantastic. Outside of that, the Discord server is just going absolutely off. If you need help with Obsidian, head along to obsidian.ttrpgtutorials.com. Check that community tab up the top and it's got links to the Discord. That is the best place to find support for all of the TTRPG stuff that you're going to find, alright? Like, there's more of us dice rollers hanging out in that Discord than any other place at this time, so jump in there and ask your questions. We've got a whole lot of stuff going on, including a lot of the developers of these sort of plugins that we're using are in there with us as well. So jump in and join the community. Outside of that, I will speak to you on the socials. Have a great day. Enjoy.